There's a particular kind of silence that lives in the spaces between refresh buttons. You know it well. It's 2 a.m. and you're scrolling through lives that seem to shimmer with a light yours doesn't possess. Your thumb moves with practiced precision. Swipe, pause, double tap, swipe again. Hours dissolve like sugar in rain. The group chat buzzes. Where'd you go? You disappeared again. You drop a laughing emoji, deflect with a meme, and retreat back into the shadows of observation. Sometimes the urge rises to share that morning coffee shot, that line from a book that splits you open, that sunset that made you forget your name. You open the caption box. Your fingers hover over the keyboard like birds, afraid to land. Type, delete, type again. Your heart drums a warning in your chest, an ancient rhythm that whispers, not safe, not safe, not safe, not safe. It's not that you have nothing to say. God knows, you have entire libraries living in your chest, stories that could fill feeds for years. But before you speak into the infinite amphitheater of the internet, you measure the room. And this room has no walls, no ceiling, no floor. It's a stage where everyone's watching and no one's really seeing, where vulnerability gets screenshot and authenticity becomes content. Your body knows this truth before your mind can form the words. They call you the ghost of social media. Nobody knows what you're up to. They laugh, half joking, half concerned. Inside, you feel that familiar tug-of-war. Relief floods through you like cool water. Thank God you don't need to perform your life for strangers. But doubt creeps in too, whispering its poison. Are you disconnecting? Are you disappearing? If a life isn't documented, does it even exist? You're the one who chooses kitchen conversations over spotlight moments, who finds more truth in DMS than in public declarations. You watch others build their digital empires, curated grids, branded personalities, strategic hashtags, while your profile sits there like an abandoned house, a few old photos gathering digital dust. Some days you look at it and think, if someone stumbled here, would they think I'm not real? And there's a strange comfort in that invisibility. Other days, it scratches at you like wool against skin, this nagging sense that you're falling behind in a race you never signed up for. Here's what we need to name without judgment. This is the landscape of digital reservation, of silent consumption. Living most of your life off-screen isn't a character flaw or a diagnosis to be treated. It's a pattern that emerges from the intersection of legitimate values, privacy, depth, the sacred act of keeping some things holy and hidden, and sometimes from wounds that haven't yet found their voice, fear of being seen and found lacking, the crushing weight of comparison, shame that wraps around your throat like smoke. Think about it this way. Every time you almost post and don't, your body is telling you a story. Is it protecting something precious? Is it avoiding something painful? Most likely, it's both. When you begin to understand what lives beneath your digital silence, when you can separate the voice that says, I choose not to share this, from the voice that says, I'm not worthy of being seen, something fundamental shifts. The prison of I don't post because I'm afraid can transform into the freedom of I consciously choose my level of visibility. The difference is everything. One leaves you paralyzed, watching life through glass. The other hands you back your power, lets you turn the dial of your presence with intention rather than fear. This isn't about becoming an influencer or building a brand or any of that hollow rhetoric. This is about something far more essential, reclaiming your right to exist on your own terms, whether that means radical transparency or sacred privacy or something beautifully in between. Picture a dimmer switch in your childhood home, not the harsh binary of on or off, but that gentle dial that lets you paint with light. You'd turn it slowly, watching shadows dance across walls, creating moods like a magician. This is exactly what your digital presence is meant to be. a conscious calibration of how much of your light you share with the world. The dimmer was born to serve you, not enslave you. Some moments call for full brightness, that work presentation where you need to shine, that cause that demands your voice, that celebration too beautiful to keep locked inside. Other times, you turn it down to a whisper, intimate griefs that need protecting, tender revelations still finding their form, seasons when your soul requires the safety of shadow to heal and grow. But here's where the story turns. Somewhere along the way, your hand slipped off the dial. Now it's comparison turning the knob, shame adjusting the settings, fear of judgment controlling your light. The very mechanism designed to give you sovereignty over your story has become a prison guard, deciding when you're allowed to be seen. What was meant to be a tool of agency has morphed into an instrument of suppression. Your body keeps the score in ways your mind might miss. Feel it, that sudden heat flooding your face when you imagine the comments section, like standing too close to a fire you didn't light. That constriction in your chest when someone tags you in a photo, as if your lungs forgot their purpose. The bone-deep exhaustion that washes over you when you think about creating content, as if your existence has been downgraded to a factory that must produce proof of living. But listen, your body also celebrates when you honor your boundaries. Notice that sweet relief, like diving into cool water when you delete an app for a few days. Feel how your breath finally finds its way to your belly when you live something profound and choose to let it marinate in the privacy of your own heart, without the urgency to package it for public consumption. That's not avoidance, that's reverence. That's understanding that some experiences are too holy for hashtags, too nuanced for captions, too alive to be flattened into squares. The research backs this up. Psychologists have long noted that our nervous systems aren't designed for constant visibility. Dr. Sherry Turkle speaks of the tethered self, how we've become psychologically bound to our devices and the validation they promise. But here's what they don't always say: the dimmer switch is still yours. The difference between healthy boundaries and fearful hiding isn't in the amount of light you show, it's in who's controlling the dial. When you choose quiet, that's power. When quiet is chosen for you by the voice that says you're not interesting enough, pretty enough, successful enough, that's prison. The dimmer was always meant to be an extension of your intuition, a translator between your inner world and outer expression. Reclaiming it means learning to hear your true voice beneath the static of social pressure, to feel the difference in your body between protective wisdom and paralyzing fear. Let me show you an ancient mirror, one that reflects our modern struggle with startling clarity. Picture a young woman in a dusty town where everyone knows everyone's business, where gossip travels faster than wind. Her name is Mary, not an influencer of faith, not a curated image of perfection, just a teenage girl carrying a scandal in her womb and heaven in her heart. Pregnant before the wedding, in a culture where that could mean death by stones. Can you imagine the whispers following her through the marketplace? The relatives with their loaded questions? The sideways glances that cut deeper than accusations? She lived under a microscope before microscopes existed. Every swell of her belly chronicled by 1,000 watching eyes. Yet scripture tells us something profound in its simplicity. She treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Treasured, pondered, not escaped, not hid but held these experiences like seeds that needed darkness to germinate. She didn't transform each divine encounter into immediate proclamation. She let them sink deep, past the noise, into that sacred interior space where meaning slowly unfolds like dawn breaking over mountains. Think about the rawness of her reality. Shepherds burst into her birthing space, strangers smelling of sheep and sweat, proclaiming angels while she's still bleeding from delivery, exhausted beyond measure. the whole town buzzing with supernatural rumors. Mary receives them, listens with that particular attention of new mothers who are simultaneously present and otherworldly, but she doesn't rush to correct the narrative, doesn't craft her version of events for public consumption. She holds it all inside, turning it over like a jeweler examining each facet of an impossible diamond. Years later, an old prophet in the temple speaks words that pierce her about swords and sorrow, about her baby bringing the rise and fall of many. Again, she stores it away. Even when they lose 12-year-old Jesus in Jerusalem, every parent's nightmare made public spectacle, and find him debating with scholars. While she's been sick with worry, her internal process remains profoundly private. The crowds saw the reunion. Only she knew the complexity of what it meant to mother the mysterious. If Mary had Instagram, her profile might seem empty. A few sparse images, captions that say little. Meanwhile, her heart held stories that angels would lean in to hear, processing divinity in the mundane, wrestling with purpose in the ordinary, metabolizing miracles without needing to monetize them. Here's what Mary understood that we're forgetting. Not every sacred moment needs a witness. Some experiences are too nuanced for captions, too holy for hashtags. She shows us that you can live a profound life without performing it. That depth often requires the courage to disappoint those hungry for constant updates. But let's be honest about the cost. Mary's discretion protected her from reducing mystery to content. But it must have been lonely sometimes. Who could understand? Who could she really talk to about raising the Son of God? There's a difference between treasuring privacy and being imprisoned by it. The key is intention. She chose her silence from a place of wisdom, not wound. Mary's story illuminates something we need to map with gentle precision: the architecture of digital silence, how it's built brick by brick from experiences that taught us visibility equals danger. Let's trace this pathway together, because understanding the mechanism is the first step toward reclaiming your power. It starts early, doesn't it? Maybe you were raised on mantras like "don't air your dirty laundry," "stay humble," "stay hidden," or "never give them ammunition." Perhaps you remember that moment you were 8, 12, 15, when you shared something precious and watched it turn into mockery. Your excitement about the school play became family dinner entertainment. Your first heartbreak became gossip currency. Your body learned before your mind could languish it. Being seen is being heard. These experiences crystallize into beliefs, like water freezing into ice. If I show myself, I'll be attacked. Nobody actually cares about my real story. My life isn't aesthetic enough, successful enough, together enough. I'm the supporting character, never the lead. These aren't just thoughts, they're survival software your psyche downloaded to protect you from further wounds. And beliefs, like faithful servants, create strategies. You cultivate a ghost profile there, but not there. You write captions and delete them like prayers that never reach heaven. You exist in private messages, in the shadows of comment sections, watching other people's lives unfold while yours remains encrypted. It works, doesn't it? Less noise, fewer misunderstandings, no screenshots of your vulnerability circulating without consent. But every protection system has a cost, and this one charges compound interest. You feel it, that creeping invisibility, like you're slowly becoming transparent. Opportunities knock but can't find your door. Your story gets written by everyone except you, your narrative hijacked by other people's assumptions. You become a rumor in your own life. Let me give you 2 anchors from psychology, stripped of academic pretense. First, social comparison theory. Simply put, you're measuring your rehearsals against everyone else's opening night. You see their highlight reel and forget it's exactly that: edited, filtered, curated. Their backstage looks just like yours: messy, uncertain, human. But the algorithm doesn't show you their 3 a.m. anxiety or their deleted drafts or the 47 takes to get one casual photo. Second, self-disclosure, the art of cracking your door open just enough to let light in. Research from institutions like MIT and Stanford consistently shows that authentic, voluntary sharing, when it comes from choice, not compulsion, actually strengthens connections and reduces isolation. But here's the crucial part. It has to be yours to give. Forced vulnerability is violence. Chosen vulnerability is power. The studies aren't trying to scare you into oversharing. They're validating what your body already knows. Both extremes, compulsive posting and complete silence, come from the same wound. One overexposes to seek validation, the other underexposes to avoid invalidation. But there's a third way, the way Mary knew: intentional presence, conscious choice, sharing from overflow rather than emptiness. Your protection mechanisms aren't wrong, they've kept you safe. But maybe, just maybe, they've done their job too well. Maybe it's time to examine which walls are load-bearing and which ones are just blocking the light. Now we arrive at the tender work of self-inquiry, where healing begins, not with grand revelations, but with questions that knock gently at your door. These aren't accusations, they're invitations. They're invitations. Think of them as a friend who knows you well enough to ask what others wouldn't dare, who sees past your practiced smile to the truth living in your bones. First question, and let it land softly. When was the last time you said, "I'm fine," while your body screamed a different story? Maybe it was last week when someone asked about your dreams, and you felt that familiar tightening in your throat, that heat behind your eyes that you've learned to swallow. You smiled, deflected, changed the subject, but your shoulders remained raised like shields. Your breathing stayed shallow, like you were rationing air. Your body knew what your words wouldn't admit, that fine has become your hiding place. A bunker where you store all the things too complicated for small talk. Second question, and breathe as you consider it. In which relationships have you mistaken your silence for peace? Perhaps with that friend who dominates every conversation, where you've learned to nod and disappear into yourself, calling it harmony when it's really erasure. Or in that family dynamic, where your opinions are treated like disruptions, so you've learned to fold them up small, tuck them away. Label the quiet as keeping the peace. But peace doesn't feel like holding your breath. Peace doesn't require you to become a ghost at your own table. Third question, the one that might sting with recognition. What small act of visibility do you crave but keep postponing because you're afraid of seeming needy, fragile, too human? Maybe it's sharing that poem you wrote at 2 a.m. when grief had you by the throat. Maybe it's posting about your small business that you've been nurturing in secret, like a forbidden garden. Maybe it's simply admitting you're struggling, that behind your competent facade you're barely keeping the plates spinning. If any of these questions find a tender spot, don't look away. That tenderness isn't weakness, it's intelligence. It's your inner compass vibrating, saying here, pay attention here. Like Mary felt the sword pierce her heart, exactly as prophesied, not as punishment, but as profound. Knowing your discomfort is information, not indictment. Think about Mary in those moments when she could have defended herself, explained herself, justified herself. When the whispers grew loud about her pregnancy, when people questioned her son's legitimacy, when even Jesus himself seemed to publicly distance himself, saying, "Who is my mother?" She held her truth like a hidden pearl, not because she was ashamed, but because she understood that not every truth needs a public defender. Some truths are so profound, they can only be cheapened by explanation. But, and this is crucial, Mary's silence wasn't self-abandonment. It was self-preservation, with dignity intact. She knew the difference between choosing quiet and being silenced, between treasuring privacy and accepting invisibility. Your body knows this difference too. It sends you signals constantly. The relief of boundaries held versus the ache of self-betrayal. The strength of conscious choice versus the weight of fear-based hiding. Your internal dimmer switch is calling for recalibration, asking you to feel the difference between protection and prison. Here's the paradox that lives at the heart of this whole conversation. The same door that shelters you can become your cage. It's like those medieval castles with their drawbridges designed for protection, but pull them up too long and even the provisions can't get in. You starve in safety. Discretion is beautiful, even holy. There's profound dignity in not bleeding on everyone who passes by, in refusing to turn your pain into other people's entertainment, in cultivating an inner life so rich that it doesn't need external validation to prove it exists. Mary knew this. She didn't post her anguish on the temple walls when Simeon prophesied about swords and sorrow. She didn't gather crowds to witness her grief at Calvary. Some sorrows are too sacred for spectacle. But watch what happens when healthy boundaries calcify into mandatory withdrawal. The prudence that once protected you starts to suffocate you. You begin declining not just the invasive requests, but even the gentle invitations, the ones your heart actually wants to accept. You've become so practiced at saying no that you've forgotten yes is also an option. You know exactly how this feels in your body. You type out a caption, something real, something true, something that matters to you. You read it once, twice, 3 times. Your heart starts hammering like it's trying to escape your chest. Your finger hovers over share but lands on delete. Again, the relief is immediate but hollow, like eating ice when you're hungry. Someone tags you in a group photo and your body contracts like you've been caught stealing. A friend invites you to join a small podcast. Nothing huge, just an intimate conversation about something you actually care about. You manufacture an excuse, so smooth you almost believe it yourself, but hours later, that familiar sting arrives, the particular ache of self-betrayal, of choosing fear over connection yet again. Yet on other days, there's genuine peace in living undocumented. You take that morning walk and let it belong only to you and God and the birds who witnessed it. You have that profound conversation with a friend and don't mine it for content. You unfollow accounts that make you feel like you're failing at a game you never agreed to play, and your whole body exhales. This isn't avoidance, this is agency. The truth is, both impulses live in you simultaneously. The legitimate need for privacy and the fear-based compulsion to hide. Mary carried both too. Yes, she treasured things in her heart, but she also magnificently proclaimed, "My soul magnifies the Lord." She knew when to be silent and when to sing, when to hold close and when to release. Your body is constantly giving you feedback about which is which. Fear feels like constriction, like breathing through a straw, like your skin is too tight. Healthy boundaries feel like spaciousness, like your lungs remember their full capacity, like you're choosing from a place of worth rather than wound. The same action declining to share can come from either source. Only you know the difference. Between the performance of constant visibility and the prison of complete invisibility, there's a third space, conscious presence, the dimmer switch you control. Not because you should be more visible, but because you deserve to choose your own visibility. We've mapped the territory, examined the wounds, sat with Mary in her sacred silence. Now comes the gentle work of reclamation, not to transform you into someone else's idea of visible, but to return the controls to your rightful hands. Start with the radical act of naming without shaming. Say it out loud, even if your voice shakes. I rarely post. I watch from the edges. I feel exposed when seen and invisible when not. Just speaking this truth moves you from shame's basement into compassion's living room. When guilt comes knocking, and it will meet it at the door with this truth: This isn't a defect. It's a strategy I developed to survive. Now I can examine it with love instead of judgment. Take your journal somewhere private, somewhere your truth can breathe without witnesses. Right at the top. If I become more visible, I fear. Let your hand move without censoring. Maybe you'll write about being misunderstood, about your words twisted into weapons against you. Maybe you'll write about not being enough, interesting enough, successful enough, together enough. Whatever emerges, remember, your silence isn't empty space. It's full of reasons, each one a breadcrumb, leading back to a moment when visibility meant danger. Name them. Naming shrinks monsters down to manageable size. Now practice what I call microdoses of appearance. You don't need to suddenly flood your feed with content. Start smaller than small. Leave one genuine comment on a post that moved you, not great post, but something real. This reminded me of my grandmother's hands. Send a private message of encouragement to someone struggling. Share one small victory in a trusted group chat. Think of it as physical therapy for your visibility, muscle gentle stretches, not violent tears. Tell yourself, I can appear in doses my heart can metabolize. Your feed needs curation like a garden needs weeding. This isn't about creating an echo chamber. It's about removing poison from your daily diet. Unfollow accounts that make you feel like you're losing a race you never entered. Follow people who remind you that humans are gardens, not galleries, messy, seasonal, growing. Set time boundaries. Your mental ecosystem matters more than algorithmic engagement. Whisper to yourself, I'm creating a digital environment that reflects the presence I want to embody. Find one person, just one who can hold this conversation with you. Not someone who'll push you to post more or validate your hiding, but someone who can sit with you in the complexity. Sometimes speaking your digital struggles out loud to a trusted human is its own form of becoming visible, of removing the mask you didn't realize you were wearing. Practice these phrases until they live in your muscle memory. I choose what to share today. And one thing is enough. My absence doesn't require explanation, except to those who matter. This is too tender for public consumption right now. I have the right to experiences that don't become content. I can learn visibility on my own terms without violence to my spirit. Mary didn't document every miracle, but when the time came, she shared her Magnificat, powerful song of justice and joy. She knew that finding your voice isn't about volume, it's about authenticity. Your journey toward chosen visibility isn't about becoming louder, it's about becoming free. Let's weave Mary back into your story, not as a standard to measure yourself against, but as a companion who understands the weight of living between revelation and reserve. She walked through life exposed to gossip, yet never enslaved by the need to control every narrative. She treasured and pondered, choosing when to speak and when to let silence do the heavy lifting. She wasn't performing her life, she was living it. Your digital silence might be the modern echo of Mary's ancient wisdom when it springs from choice rather than chains. Just as she lived through miracles without rushing to make them into testimonies, you too can experience profound moments without the compulsion to package them for public consumption. The sunset that stops you mid-step doesn't need a filter. The conversation that cracks you open doesn't need to become content. Some things are too holy for hashtags. But here's the full truth. When life genuinely calls for your visibility, when your work needs to be seen, when your voice could lift someone else, when silence becomes complicity, you can turn that dimmer up just enough to be witnessed without betraying your essence. Mary spoke when it mattered. Her Magnificat rings through centuries because she knew the difference between strategic silence and sacred speech. Picture yourself standing before that dimmer switch, hand finally steady on the dial. You're not choosing between the harsh fluorescence of constant exposure and the suffocating darkness of total withdrawal. You're finding your own frequency, that particular wavelength where your truth can travel without distortion, neither hiding nor performing, just being, at the volume your soul can sustain. Let's return to the truth that's guided us through this journey. Let it sink into your bones. Not posting isn't a defect or diagnosis. It's a pattern that can arise from legitimate values: privacy, depth, the sacred art of keeping some things holy, or from wounds that haven't healed, fear of judgment, cruel comparison, the shame that whispers you're not enough. When you understand what fuels your digital silence, something profound shifts. I don't post because I'm afraid transforms into I consciously choose my visibility. If today calls for silence, let it be sovereign choice. If today calls for light, let it not be punishment. Your assignment for the next 24 hours: choose one. Option 1. Write 3 anchor phrases in your journal that shield you from comparison's poison. Read them before you open any app. Let them be your armor. Something like, my backstage is not their highlight reel. I am whole without witnesses. My worth isn't measured in metrics. Option 2. Make one micro appearance that feels safe. Leave one genuine comment. Send one grateful message. Share one small truth in a trusted space. Then notice your breathing afterward. Notice if it's fear or freedom you're feeling. Remember, if this conversation has stirred something that feels too heavy to hold alone, reach out for professional support. There's no shame in needing help to recalibrate your relationship with visibility. Here's what I know to be true. Not every presence needs to be public, but no life deserves to be imprisoned by fears, silence. Today, right now, the dimmer switch returns to your hands. Turn it to whatever setting lets you breathe. The light you choose to share, whether whisper or song, is enough. You are enough. Today, the dimmer is yours.